All right, so I want to talk tonight about mental health and taking dominion over your mind. Okay? One of the most common things I come across in ministry is people who are under a spirit of torment. And what a spirit of torment looks like is they're just under this oppression constantly, and this oppression is lying to them. This oppression is telling them horrible things about themselves, telling them that they're not saved, telling them that they're condemned, all of this stuff, okay? First things first, Yeshua came and died on the cross for you. The Father sent him, his only son, to die for you so that you could be redeemed and have dominion back, okay? The devil stole your dominion when Yeshua died on the cross and he rose again. He restored your dominion, okay? Now, what the enemy does is try to convince you in your mind that that is not true, that you don't have your dominion back, that you are weak, that you have not overcome, that you don't have the power of Christ in you, that you are not saved, that you cannot be set free. And the devil will keep doing that to you, and his little minions will keep doing that to you until you start to fight back, okay? Now, other people can help you to fight back, but you have to learn how to fight. Because what's happening is people have gotten into this, they've lived their whole life under this torment and this oppression, and things have happened to them, and they've had horrible things happen to them in their life. And they get all this oppression and this torment and this demonic bondage on them. And then they meet Yeshua, Jesus, as most people call him, and they get set free from that. They have that salvation moment. And sometimes they get a little bit of a break from the torment. They get a little bit of freedom, but then that oppression sets back in, okay? Now, a lot of what that is you've been trained your entire life to believe the lies of the devil, okay? And you have to retrain yourself. You have to retrain yourself to take dominion over your mind, okay? So there's, from what I've experienced in walking through this myself and walking other people through this, there's a couple things at play. Number one is the spiritual aspect of it, which is the demonic principality that you need to take dominion over. Sometimes it's an actual principality that you need to rebuke and get out of agreement with, okay? Coupled with that, so you have that part of it, but then coupled with that, you also have the piece where you need to battle for control of your mind, okay? And that could be partially a principality thing, but often it is bad habits, bad thinking, bad places where you're putting your attention. 9 times out of 10, when I find somebody and somebody's reached out to me for help to overcome these sorts of mental torment, consistent mental torment, like they're just in agony all day long. They need deliverance, but then they also need to learn how to take dominion over their thoughts, okay? A lifetime of weak thinking will put you in patterns that you'll just kind of go into, and you'll spiral and you'll take yourself down the abyss, okay? The problem with bad thinking and bad words coming out of your mouth and bad speaking is Abba could heal you. He could deliver you tonight. You could be healed and delivered tonight. But if you're just going to go back to start cursing yourself and telling yourself you're an idiot and telling yourself you're not saved and telling yourself that you're doomed to hell, telling yourself that you can't overcome, that life will never get better for you, if you're going to go back to that in an hour, then you're never going to believe he healed you, because even if he did heal you, you're recursing yourself in an hour anyways, right? So we have to have the piece of overcoming that mental stronghold too. So it's not just about the prayer. Prayer does work. Prayer does heal. I've witnessed it. But I've noticed that people who do actually get healing, they're mentally ready. Their brains are mentally ready to walk out the healing, okay? They have done countless studies on this. If you tell yourself you are sick, heartbroken, and a loser and broke and all of these things every single day, that is what is going to show up in your life, okay? And that is not new woo-woo new age stuff. That is just reality. In the Bible, it says what we speak becomes, right? Watch your words. Out of it comes the things of life, right? Out of your mouth comes the things of life. So you need to learn how to control your words. Now, this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. In my experience, what you need to do is you need to do a step-by-step training. Okay, so when you go into the military, what happens? They train you with little exercises every single day. Well, big exercises every single day, but they train you in small exercises so that you get stronger and that those things become natural for you, so that you have a natural reaction. So they train you how to shoot, and they train you these exact patterns over and over and over again, right? So that when you come into a battle situation, you come into contact with a situation where you need to go to battle, you react, okay? So now what's happened in many people's lives is they've been trained by, life, bad people in their life, tragedy in their life, trauma in their life. They've been trained to react in a negative way, a way that does not help them, a way that is a lie of the devil that they're agreeing with. And so what's happening is they have some sort of upset, they have some sort of trigger, they have some sort of trauma, and they react in the negative way. And that causes negative things to happen in their lives, right? Okay. So just as you were trained in the negative way, right, you need to train yourself slowly but surely in the positive way. Okay. So how do you do this? You take a proactive approach. You do not wait until you're having some sort of reaction. You don't wait until you're in the heat of the moment to train. You train before you have the altercation. You train before you have the incident that's going to trigger you. Okay. Ways to train this. Okay. One thing I notice with people with mental torment is they allow whatever thoughts that come into their head, they allow them to control them, okay? So if they have a thought come into their head that they're a loser, they agree with that thought right away. They don't take that thought captive. What does the Bible say? Take those thoughts captive. They agree with that thought right away and they go with it. They just run with it. Nope, my brain told me I'm a loser. I'm running with it, okay? Instead of stopping, I rebuke that thought and then put a scripture in there, put a new thought in there that's actually going to serve you, that's actually going to be helpful for you, okay? If you do that long enough, if you practice that process long enough, it will become automatic, okay? But it's not going to be easy at first because you are so trained to go to that negative spiral place that you're never going to automatically go to the positive place because your brain naturally just goes to the negative place. That's where your brain has been trained to go. Your brain is a muscle. You have trained it in a particular way. To fix that, you just train it in the opposite way, okay? So you want to put in more good thoughts, more good inputs, okay? Reading the word, and I'm not talking about sitting there and dwelling on the negative things of the word that have nothing to do with you, but reading the positive parts of the word, the parts that are for you, the parts that do inspire you to do better, finding those Bible verses that do speak to you in a positive way, and focusing on those, meditating on those will put more of the positive into your mind so that when those thoughts come up, you will have a scripture ready to replace that negative thought with, okay? So here's my favorite for everyone. So write this one down. Philippians 4, verse 8 and 9, okay? Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence or if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. So practice spending time dwelling on positive things. What people do, what people who have a lot of trauma, would have a lot of oppression in their life, have had a hard life, tend to do is they tend to dwell on the negative things. They sit there and they dwell and they ponder all the negative things, all the things that could go wrong, all the bad things that have happened in the past, every bad thing that they've ever done, all the bad in the world, okay? They sit there and they dwell on that until they get into a place of anxiety, fear, depression, and absolute mental torment, okay? So switch that to dwelling on beautiful, positive things. One of the best things you can do if you are consistently dealing with mental torment is go out and volunteer somewhere. Go do some volunteer work, because you cannot find yourself. It is very difficult to find yourself in mental torment when you're out feeding the homeless, or you're out doing something positive where you're serving other people, okay? Find a way that go visit the elderly, go visit people that are in need of visitations, okay? All sorts of things like that. Find some way that you can make a positive difference and do those things. Focus on what you can do to make a positive difference in other people's lives, okay? Don't worrying about something, sitting there and worrying and concerning yourselves about something is never going to solve the problem. The other thing I would suggest is learn to ask yourself better questions, okay? A lot of times people are asking themselves questions like, what is this lump on my arm? What could this be? It must be something bad. And they're opening up that loop in their head that the lump, it could be nothing. It could be a zit, right? It could be an ingrown hair. It could be nothing. And they've opened up this loop in their head, and then all of a sudden they're thinking that they're going to die, okay? Dwelling on things that are not going to make a difference, okay? So one thing that you can do is bring that attention to making better questions. So even write down, when in a time when you're not all triggered and all over the place, sit down and write positive questions that you can ask yourself. Things like, how is God going to show me miracles today? How is God going to provide for me today? I wonder what kind of good friends God is going to send into my life soon. I wonder, what kind of amazing people that God's going to bring me to help me understand this and help me grow today. Think about ways that you can phrase questions that you're asking yourself to open up a positive point of view, okay? Because your brain actually naturally works. If you open up a loop in your brain, so with a question, if you open up a loop in your brain with a question by asking yourself a question, your brain wants to close that loop, okay? If you say to yourself, what is this thing on my arm? Okay? Your brain now wants to figure out how to close that loop, how to answer that question. So your brain is going to go out into the world and look for all the information possible to answer that question. If you have a tendency to seek out bad information or negative information, you're going to go out there and your brain is going to naturally see all the horrible things that it could be, even though it might be nothing, right? And so you're killing yourself with all this worry and stress when it could just be nothing, right? So ask yourself better questions, okay? One thing that I always used to pray, I haven't done it much lately, but what I used to always pray is, Abba, send me the people I need and send the people and send me to the people who need me. Send me the people I need and send me to the people who need me, okay? And he would send me people that would need my help, and he would bring people who I needed, okay? And what's great about that prayer is because you're expecting him to send you the correct people that are going to help you, and then you're also expecting him to send you to help other people, so that he's giving you a purpose and he's giving you something to do to occupy yourself, okay? Ask yourself really good questions. Maybe you could write out some good questions that you could read to yourself in the morning. What would be an example? How am I going to get more healed today? What is God going to do to heal me more today? Right? And then when you ask yourself that question, you've opened that loop. What is God going to do to heal me more today? Okay, your brain has now opened up that loop, okay? Now your brain is going to look for ways that God's going to heal you more and more, okay? Your brain is going to look for positive people. This is why gratitude journals and gratitude and praise and worship is so important. Do not neglect praise and worship, because praise and worship helps you focus on all the good things. Helps you focus on the good things that you could see, okay? Helps you focus on the ways that he is providing for you. A lot of times people want to focus on the things that are missing or the things that are lacking. when they should move their focus to the things that are there, that he is providing, and the ways that he is good, and all the ways that he is bringing that goodness into your life, okay? And when you're looking at the things that are lacking all the time, you're probably not even understanding what he's doing or how he's using that for good. So praise and worship, even in your battles, even when you're having a hard time, will help give you a deeper understanding, if that makes sense. I was telling my friend today, like, when you buy a red car or you buy a certain type of car, and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, right? Gratitude is the same thing. When you start to deliberately take a moment and pay attention to the things that you're grateful for and thank your Heavenly Father for the wonderful things that you do have in your life. It could be a friend. It could be somebody who helped you. It could be some provision that he provided for you. When you take a moment and write down those things, your brain is automatically going to start to look for new things, okay? Look for more things to be thankful for. Because you're now training your brain to look for things to be thankful for. That's part of that training, right? You're going to start looking for things, and automatically, eventually, if you do enough gratitude, if you do enough praise and worship, you're going to find things all the time to praise. You're going to find things all the time to have great gratitude for. It's going to come more naturally for you. You're working that muscle, and then it's going to come more naturally. Just like you can work the negative muscle where you see negative everywhere, you just see all the negative and everything. You can work that muscle, or you can work the positive muscle, okay? It's a muscle that you can train, right? So how can we tell if it's a demonic stronghold? How can we tell if it's a spirit or a demonic stronghold? A lot of times you can tell if you're really compelled to do something automatically on autopilot. There might be a spirit there. If you feel like it's out of your control, there might be a spirit there that you need to rebuke. Getting prayer with somebody else is important, but it's also important that you learn how to pray yourself and rebuke these spirits away and learn spiritual warfare yourself. A lot of people don't take spiritual warfare seriously. I find that spiritual warfare is probably one of the most important things you can do, because it will prevent a lot of the stuff that you will experience day to day. If you know about spiritual warfare and you can do it preemptively, and you can make sure that you're doing your morning prayers and your nighttime prayers, and you're covering your house and you're covering your children, and you're being obedient to the commands of God, and you do all these spiritual warfare things, those spirits can't come and harass you, right? I do notice in the last week or so that the spiritual warfare has been very strong. It's the same at Xmas time. Xmas time, this spiritual warfare gets really, really strong. And during this season, it gets really, really strong. And the reason for that is because you've got all these people doing witchcraft rituals, right? At Xmas time, you've got everybody setting up a tree in their house. They're doing all these Xmas rituals. They're doing Santa Claus rituals. They're doing all this stuff. And that's bringing the witchcraft energy up, and it's giving the spirits more power and more dominion, right? The same thing happens at this season that we had just last week with the fake Passover season. And it's the same thing. People are doing all these pagan fertility rituals. There's spirits of confusion going around all of this stuff, and it creates that kind of spiritual atmosphere where things are more of a battle. I definitely noticed it in the last week, and I do think that with this eclipse coming and with all the things coming that people are kind of ramping up for, I think there is going to be more witchcraft. They're doing a lot of the occult people are doing a lot of rituals with all this stuff. And so there will be heavier spirits in the atmosphere. There will be more spiritual warfare in the atmosphere. And we have to learn how to pray powerfully and how to take dominion and how to walk in dominion. One thing I do notice that a lot of believers have a very weak faith as far as dominion goes, as far as understanding that they don't need to be pushed around by these spirits, right? And they don't need to hand over their dominion and everything. And a big part of that is we've trained believers to hand over our dominion as far as keeping the commandments of God goes. And so when you are so easily able to hand over your dominion by being convinced to not keep the commandments of God, it's like you kind of get weak everywhere. It creates weak thinking. And once you create weak thinking, there's a lot of open doors to torment people, to harass people. One of the best things that you can do, obviously, that everyone should be doing is keeping the Sabbath day set apart. Because when you keep the Sabbath day set apart, there's a hedge of protection that goes around you that is like very, very, very strong. Okay, so when you keep the Sabbath day, that the walls of protection go up around you in a very strong way. And you will notice as you start to keep the Sabbath day holy and you set that day apart and focus on the things of Yah for that day, it trains your mind as well. Like, you know how I've been talking about all this mind training. Well, keeping the Sabbath day incorporates all that mind training into one day, right? You're meeting with your Heavenly Father. You are being obedient to the commandments. You're dwelling on His word. You are learning His word, right? And as you keep that Sabbath day, it is strengthening you because you're spending that really quality time, and that there's a spiritual aspect to it too, right? It's like you become more, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I consider it the wedding ring, right? I consider the Sabbath the wedding ring. So it's like you put your wedding ring on properly, and then your husband can take proper care of you, right? So if you have your wedding ring off and you're out doing whatever and you're not being obedient to your husband, you're off, fooling about, your husband is not going to protect you. He's not going to be able to protect you the way that he would want to, because you're running a mess, okay? You're being messy, right? So once you get into order and you act right, then your husband can really go to bat for you. He can really protect you. He can really provide for you, okay? It's putting your wedding ring back on. So put your wedding rings back on. Keep the Sabbath day. Really honor it. It's Friday night to Saturday night. Really honor it in the way that you set aside time to study the Word. We do studies here on TikTok, and we do a live study here for a few hours, so you can join us here on TikTok if you don't have a place to go. And Yeshua always met with people and healed on the Sabbath. He always met with people and healed on the Sabbath. That's the day where he meets and heals people. Okay. It also, the big part of the Sabbath too is it changes your identity. It moves you from this identity of being in the world, being like everybody else, to a set apart identity that you are a child of the Most High, that He is your Father and you keep His holy days and you are part of the family, right? It really works to change your identity as well. So it changes so much in your mental. There's a spiritual level to it, but then there's the mental level to it. There's the identity level to it. All of these things work together, okay? So as far as the spiritual warfare aspect of it, if you are experiencing like quite a bit of torment still, you probably need people to pray with you, prayer warriors to pray with you, and you need to fast and you need to go to battle, okay? A lot of things, so some things are an easier battle, right? You can kind of overcome them, but some things you need to just make a battle plan and go to war with, okay? So if you have a certain stronghold or if you have a certain demonic torment and say scrolling your phone aggravates it, okay? Then you need to go to battle with not scrolling your phone anymore, okay? So you would want to make a plan, okay? So let's say you're going to make a battle plan. Scrolling your phone aggravates you. It gives you a spirit of confusion. It gives you a spirit of procrastination or whatever that battle is for you, okay? So here's the battle plan. Number 1, we're going to do a phone fast, okay? 3-day phone fast. Set aside a time, do a food fast at the same time, read your scriptures, set that time apart, read your scriptures, don't eat or drink, and just focus in. Just say, I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to overcome this mental block. Okay. I'm going to overcome whatever spirit is keeping me locked up in this way. Okay. So you can do some sort of battle plan for any sort of stronghold that you have, right? Let's talk about unforgiveness. So if you had a battle plan for unforgiveness, one of the things you could do is be really dramatic in going to people and reconciling with them. So if you have a problem with unforgiveness, you might want to consider making phone calls that are very uncomfortable that you don't want to make in order to sort out whatever happened between you and that other person, right? One thing that you can do to overcome certain things is to walk boldly in the opposite direction. Okay, so say you had a problem with money, you might want to boldly tithe, right? You might want to boldly be generous so that you can overcome your thinking with money, your struggle with money. You might want to be overly generous, okay? If you have a problem with lust, you might want to overly guard your eyes. You might want to avoid talking to the opposite gender for a few months, and just to avoid talking to the opposite gender for a few months, and just go to battle with that, okay? So that you're battling against that lust, right? Guarding your eyes the whole time, or fasting for a few days during that time, right? So for each stronghold, like if you have something that's a real big stronghold, you might want to just write out with a journal, okay, this is my battle plan to overcome this stronghold. These are the scriptures I'm going to memorize. I'm going to fast for this many days. I'm going to do this much prayer. I'm going to pray 3 times a day. I'm going to seek help from other people. I'm going to find somebody to pray with me. I'm going to, whatever it is, whatever is going to help you, right, to overcome that particular stronghold, okay? Yes, you should ask for forgiveness from people. If it's something that you've done, you should definitely go and reconcile. Have that hard, uncomfortable conversation. If you've had something where you did something wrong in the past, and even if it was a while ago, but you feel like you should reconcile with that person, you should definitely phone them up or get a hold of them and try to reconcile that, because that will heal you as well. You will feel free of that guilt that you've been holding as well, right? I think that's all I wanted to say on that. I think I would say the main thing is if you're the type of person that spirals into really negative thinking, you have to get a hold of that, okay? And the way that you get a hold of that is by learning scriptures, so that you have scriptures in your brain instead of negative thoughts. So you don't have to necessarily battle those negative thoughts all the time. Just by putting in the positive scriptures constantly, naturally your thinking will change. The word will heal you and will renew your mind. So as long as you are putting those positive scriptures in your brain constantly, it will start to cleanse your mind so that you will not go down those spirals anymore as much, okay? So start to memorize different scriptures, post them around your house to remind you, post them on your fridge, on your mirror, wherever you can, right? Do all that. And so it's not even necessarily that you have to, think too hard about removing the negative thoughts. Just keep adding positive inputs. Another thing that you can do if you tend to negatively spiral, don't watch negative TikToks all day long. Don't watch negative YouTubes or YouTubes that stress you out and worry you. There's nothing you can do about it. If we go to nuclear war tomorrow, there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it tonight, okay? I'm sure most of you, maybe there's a couple on you that could do something about it, but I doubt it. So most of us, there's nothing we can do about it, really. So you have to go and find positive things. If you're looking for healing, watch healing testimonies all day long, okay? Instead of focusing on negative things, listen to testimonies about people, how they overcame things. Listen to testimonies about people, how they were healed, right? Listen to testimonies about people who have been completely delivered and their families have been restored, okay? So start feeding yourself, feed your body with that positive stuff, okay? Let's talk about finances. Okay, so finances, the way that you would first want to learn the scriptures about finances. You want to try to pay bills on time, pay things on time. Make sure that you are giving at least 10% and trying to give out wherever you can. I did do a video on YouTube couple weeks ago, we talked a lot about finances and the different ways that you can give and the different levels at which you can give. And that is on my YouTube, and it is called, it was like a week ago. It says money, money, money on it. It's one of the study with me ones, and it says money, money, money on the icon thing. It says tithing and giving, money, money, money. So study with me, tithing and giving. Okay. Someone was asking me about tithing when you're in debt. And I've been praying about this a lot. So if you have personal people that you owe money to, like say you owe a friend a couple $100, or you owe somebody, try to do those ones first, and then leave the credit card stuff and that kind of stuff for later. And so once you've kind of paid off the personal debts, like just random people you owe money to, you want to do those first, right? And then you want to set up just your payments for your debts. So if you have a mortgage or your debts, you want to just set up your payments for that, and organize your payments, how you want to pay that off. But you want to start tithing at that point, or like giving in some way, giving to widows and orphans, giving to a ministry that really blesses you, and then saving up for Sukkot. Those are the three things with tithing. I go through that in the tithing videos. I won't get into that tonight, but if you are giving generously, he will bless it. I have experienced that. Like if you are making sure, and it's not just about being generous, but it's almost like just making sure that you are setting aside whatever he's increased for you, just setting aside that portion and giving it back out. He will bless that and he will grow it. He absolutely will. I've watched it happen so many times. He will. So it's almost like a practice of faith and trusting him, right? Even if you need that $100 to, because you feel like you're really short and you really feel like you need it. It's a practice of trusting him, and it grows your ability to trust him. It grows your faith. One thing that really happens when people are new believers that kind of come from a very traumatized background is their unbelief and their faith is really strong because life has been hard for them, and their experience of life is that life is really hard, right? If you've come from that. Because sometimes you see these people that are shiny, happy Christians, and you're like, well, they don't seem to struggle and da-da-da. Well, a lot of them came from really great families, right? And that helps. It really does. Like if you came from a really good family that taught you, how to deal with money, that taught you how, and didn't traumatize you and didn't beat you, and, they weren't alcoholics and stuff, that's a pretty big leg up in this world, So don't compare yourself to that kind of situation. That's why it's really important to listen to testimonies, because a lot of people have overcome stuff, and you might not even realize what they have overcome, right? You might not even realize what they've been through. And when you listen to the testimonies, that will help you understand that you can overcome it too. But if you've kind of been growing up in this kind of traumatized life, and you've had a lot of hard things happen to you, kind of get in that slavery mindset. The people in Exodus is a really good example of this. The people in Exodus, they came out of Egypt and they had this slavery mindset, and they kept going back to the slavery mindset over and over and over again. They go back to the slavery mindset. Okay. And you can read the story of Exodus and you can see how he's showing them miracle after miracle after miracle. And what are they doing? The second that they're not visually seeing a miracle anymore, they forget what he just did for them, right? They forget exactly how far that he's taken them, right? So that's why we do the gratitude. We want to make sure we remember how far he's taken us. We want to make sure that remember that he's freed us from slavery, that he's freeing us, that he's restoring us, okay? He's taking us to the promised land, right? So in the Exodus story, they keep wanting to go back to their slavery because that's what they're used to. So a lot of times we want to go back to what we're used to, so that so that we're just comfortable. Like our brains get comfortable in what we're used to. It's really important that you work out your brain and you stretch your brain to get used to things that you aren't used to anymore. Get used to, it's okay to have good friends that take care of you and that you can trust and rely on. Get used to that God's people will be there for you. Get used to accepting generosity from others. Get used to being positive in your mindset, right? Being around really good people helps a lot too. Make sure that you're in good groups of people that are going to lift you up and that they're safe to be around and that they're healthy people to be around and they will help you, right?